One epic mix with 266 channels, 148 are audio channels, 45 are parallel, 22 are VCAs, 26 are printing channels, 25 are group folders. Now, here is the before and after.
You, it's a long time day to do, baby. Can you be mine? Baby, it's true. Tension getting only you lately. All day, all night. Haitian shop.
Now, not many people talk about mixing large sessions, so I asked on Instagram and YouTube what people would like to learn. I collected their responses and highlighted some key things I wanted to share with you too. Now, I've got a laundry list of things to go through in this video, so to keep things guided and structured, I categorized everything in this walkthrough into 3 parts: organization, balance, and details. Better yet, if you want to access more detailed notes on this session and the things I talk about in this video, next week I'm going to send out a newsletter to the best subscribers for working audio pros. That's my newsletter. So don't forget to join that newsletter down in the link below so you don't miss out. But for the meantime, let's get into this mix. So now we're jumping into organization. I'm going to address this first question here from Hubert, which I think is a good way to kick this off. How long did prep take? How long did the mix take? So the prep took 1 hour and 13 minutes. So what actually goes into my prep? So I rename all the files so they start with the group name. So bass, background vocal is BGV, drums are drum, effects start with effects, and I throw them into my clip finder. And then I drag them onto the respective channels as part of my template. And then I duplicate what I need to and fold them all out. And the good thing about having all these in alphabetical order by naming them BGV at the start of each file, or drums at the start of each file, or bass at the start of each file, is what I can do is, let's say I'll highlight all the drums. I'll show you something here. This is a really fun little thing I do to make sure I've got all the stems. If I highlight all the drums and then I scroll over to here, I can see all the drums selected. And I can see if any of the drum stems aren't imported, which should be. Now at this point, because I've stripped silence, it's made sub-regions for each stem, but otherwise this would just look like it's highlighted as one block, and I know I've got all the drums in there and I haven't missed any stems. As well as that, in prep, I'm stripping the silence of everything, which is something that's automated in Pro Tools. There's a edit and strip silence feature. Once I get those stems in, strip the silence, something I like to do, I can't remember which mixer I saw do this, it was on Pure Mix, but basically what they do is they stack the stems visually. So you can see all these drum hits, these shakers, tambourines, and triangles, they're all stacked together because they all work together. Same with these basses, which all play together, I stack them. I do that as well with the synths here, so all these 4 synths are stacked together. I'd like to keep everything that's next to one another stacked, so that way corresponding elements, it's really easy to have the faders or the channel faders in channel mode right next to one another, which is important for me. So stacking, stripping silence, naming them. This all took me about an hour, so you can see the vocal stacks here in the dubs. They're all stacked together. Besides all that, it's actually a pretty quick session setup for so many stems. There are 148 audio channels. It took me about an hour because everything's sort of laid out. All my routing is laid out to work from, which makes it really easy. Now, the next thing he asked is how long did the mix take? I said it took 4 hours, 10 minutes. The revision notes. Now, the reason why it took so quick is because the producer, Mech, his revision notes were impeccable. He always had 3 things included. There was the name of the stem, the time marker, and the direction, which made it so easy for me in an email to look at the note, go to the time marker, find the stem he's referring to or the channel he's referring to, and then either attenuate something or boost something or EQ something to my client's liking or to the producer's liking. So it made these revisions really quick, really easy. I didn't have to sort of interpret anything. It was very clean cut. And his notes were awesome, especially with the vocals and little tweaks, a couple dB up here or down. He really understood the direction he wanted to take the song as a producer, and he guided me as a mixer in a really constructive way. So there's a beautiful synergy happening there between the two. So that's why revisions were pretty efficient. 3 revisions for a really big session is quite a success in my eyes. Another organizational sort of thing I did in the prep for this is there are 10 vocalists in Dice. Obo, Min, Alex, Apo, Cheese, Frame, Jay, Jisang, Madok, and Otto. I hope I got them all right. Now, that means you need to organize. So each of these vocalists have their own folder. So it also helped when during revisions, Mech would say, hey, can you bring Otto's lead vocal up or his harmonies down and whatnot? And what I did is all the leads are the first track in that folder and the rest underneath it are the dubs or the doubles. And it made revision such a breeze. I usually don't organize vocalists like this in a session, but for this particular group, I did because I knew there were a lot of vocalists, a lot of takes, a lot of things moving places. So I'm just going to minimize all them and you can just see the amount of vocal takes. I think there's 98 vocal channels in total on this. So there's a lot of vocals to manage. 143 to 152, yeah, 9 vocalists there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 10 vocalists. Sorry, I was right when I said 10. So that management was pretty tough, but that's how I grouped things. Now, people are talking who asked me some questions about subgroups, sort of asked, do I mix into subgroups? Like, do I have a drum bus, a bass bus, a vocal bus, and whatnot? I don't. I don't mix like that. I mix with parallel channels. So if you look over here, I've got, and we'll talk about this in details when I show you through some of these settings. I have parallel buses, which I like to use to blend in tones. I don't tend to work off buses. It's a claim I made in another video that this way of working is more superior. And I said I was going to follow it up with another video talking about that. But every time I went down the rabbit hole of looking into the phase relationships between group processing and parallel processing and independent channel processing, I kept coming to the same conclusion. All mixing is sort of a game of compromise, or not compromise, but all signal processing creates some artifact or compromise in the signal, which affects subsequent signals that are all summing together. So whether you do that preliminary before it goes into a bus or after it goes into a bus, there's always going to be some trade-off and some benefit. So not one way of working is better than the other. Sorry to bore you with some of those details. It's something I just sort of wanted to get off my chest to let you guys know that that's just sort of the nature of how I work. I don't work with sub buses, and some people might ask why. I just find it can be a bit circular. So in circular, I mean, let's say you have a vocal bus, and I get a revision note to bring a particular vocal up in level. Then when I bring that vocal up in level, it makes the compression on the vocal bus attack more. And then by bringing that vocal level up, the compression on the vocal bus is working more. So then the harmonies might feel a bit softer than what they were before because the compression is moving the whole signal up and down. I don't like that. I don't like that when I'm mixing. So that's why I went with just the way I like to work. No sub buses, only groups in terms of folders and VCA faders, but all of these just go straight into the mix bus. You can see the output is mix, 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 mix. Here's actually something I also did before I shot this video as something I wish I'd done when I organized it, because a lot of the notes were referring to the individual vocalists. So Mech would say, hey, we need Apo's vocal up in this section, or we need Jisang's vocal down in this section. And what I wish I'd done is associate VCA faders with each of the vocalists. So I did this after I finished the session, just as a reminder for next time I'm working with them, and I have this many vocalists, to create VCA faders, one for all the lead lines in general, and then one for all the harmony lines in general, which I do have lead vocal and backing vocal, but because lead vocal included the harmonies, this would bring all the harmonies and lead lines up. And then also creating VCA faders for each vocalist. So all the vocal stacks for each vocalist I could control independently. You can say mix them as groups, but I just didn't want to have group processing. VCA faders is how I would do this in the future. And finally, something that is exceptionally important with any label work is to be able to produce stems. So in my mixing template, which again, you can get this if you're in Pro Tools down in the description below, is having printers available. So basically what I have in this session, once we get through organization, I'll show you some balancing techniques and we can listen through this session, is I have a folder here which takes input from all the main groups, so to speak, and I can record enable these or input only monitor these and record enable them. And as I play through the track, it will record and track each of the stems accordingly. One for the kick, one for the snare, one for the drums, other bass, instruments, lead vocal, background vocal, etc. all the way down. And that becomes my printers folder where I've got all the stems there. And then basically I export that for my client as part of the deliverables, including some alternate versions, including an instrumental, and no lead vocal, or -1. And that's really important. -1 is some terminology this particular producer uses for the TV mix. By minus, they mean minus the lead vocal. So now we're jumping into balance. This first question came from Carnival, and it was, what did I focus on first? So I'm going to show you my lead vocal balancing technique. This is what I always start on first, and it is making sure that the kick, the bass, and the vocals work together. I can get rid of all the other elements, and I'm going to still move to the track with just the kick, bass, and vocals. Reason being is kick and bass drives a song. Any contemporary pop music, electronic music, that low-end drive and that vocal focus are the two things which must work together. If there's too much vocal, the kick's going to feel weak. If there's not enough vocal, the kick and bass is going to feel overwhelming. Those two need to work. Everything I feel in contemporary music should be built around that, with some exceptions creatively. But for a song like this, it is rhythm and vocals. So let's just have a listen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring these vocals all the way down. It's on automation. That's going to be fun. And we'll slowly bring it up. All right, let's do that.
Baby, can you be mine? Baby, it's true. Tension getting only you lately. All day, all night. Hey, ฉันชอบเธอว่ะ Oh, I go sharply. Thinking about you all day and night. Like.
Now, those vocals are probably 2 decibels louder than where I set them in the mix, but through revisions, we bumped it up because something that in T-pop, which is pretty common, is the vocals driving the track, and these are vocalists. These vocalists, that's their talent, is the singing, is the dancing, it is them. They are the highlight of the music. So I probably had it set -3 decibels on this VCA fader. By the end, it was a -1. And it still balances well, but whenever I'm starting a mix, those are the 3 elements I use. And you can hear when it's really soft that the kick and bass drives everything. When it's really loud, the vocals overtake the kick and bass. This is slightly louder than where I had it, but it still all works. And the reason why I build up these 3 things first is because then what I do is I mute the vocals, I build out the beat, the drums, I throw the bass in, and then once that's all sort of working, I put the vocals back in and then blend everything else underneath and around the vocal. Sorry, I lost my voice there. So I'm not building the entire production out and then throwing the vocals back in. I'm just building out the beat once I've got the lead vocals balanced. I'll mute the vocals, build out the beat, and then with the beat and the vocals, I'll blend the other elements, the guitars, the synths, underneath and around the vocals so nothing competes with it. Okay, and that actually, funnily enough, second thing on balance, Gazing Warmth, he's on IG. He messaged me and he goes, how do you decide the core elements? I'm looking for core elements musically. What are the elements that make me want to funk? Okay, like really get into it and groove. So in this one, I've got that little plucky guitar in the upbeat and the synth hook with particular drum elements. So these are the elements which, after I get my balance and I'm trying to build out the beat, I want to make sure work and funk the hell out. It's really important when you're balancing the track. You've got so many stems. You've got 148 stems of audio, and then you've got all your parallel channels and stuff. You pick the channels which are the core and heart of the music, and these were the ones for me. So this is in the turn of the chorus. Take a listen. That's actually missing something. You know what it's missing? It's missing my funky little synth pluck. There we go. Play it. If those elements don't balance and work together that you're grooving, no good. So when there's stacks of elements which aren't necessarily at the forefront, because elements that are at the forefront in a well-produced track tend to have their own tone and sound design, which you don't want to step too hard on. You might want to use EQ or compression to embellish them, but you don't want to start stuffing around with where they're sitting in the stereo field too much and whatnot. But in this track, in this part of the chorus, there's this big stack of synths, and I'll just play this through here. Put those lead vocals on.
Oh, I go sharply.
the background. They're not the foreground element. So I wanted to create a bit of space in the mix for them. So what we'll do is we'll just solo them. Just solo them. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is the technique Craig Bowers shared on his Instagram, using the S1 imager just to spread them where they're in the stereo field. And I'll turn this off and then I'll put them on, and you'll just hear how it creates a bit of clarity. And the benefit of this is having that clarity in the stereo field and moving things out, especially in stacks, like specific stacks, creating that space out the side allows the center to open up for more punch, for more clarity in your lead elements as well. So just take a listen to this before and after. Completely opens it up to the side. So when I'm actually playing it in the mix, I'll turn it off and then put it back on. It goes from sort of murking a bit of the center signal where the vocals and the drum transients are to just going straight out to the sides, which is a really nice way to create clarity without having to adjust levels too much from where the original production mix was, because those original production mixes are what clients sign off on. So you want to keep close to them as possible.
Thinking about you all day and night.
Just spreads them out a little bit, just a little bit, and just enough that it makes things feel a little bit more open. You probably heard when it was off, it was a little bit more congested. They were a little bit more forward in the mix as well because they were in the center. Just pulling them out helps them a lot. Let's go to this next one. What's my next note here? Balancing harmonies. This is a fun one. Harmonies. This is quite a lot of harmonies going on here. There's like 7, 8 harmony channels here going all on at once. I will mute all the harmonies, all the lead vocals, and my aim is I'll put this in on my monitoring in mono. You'll hear it in stereo, but if I press that button, I'll hear it in mono. I mute all the harmonies, which is important to do, so those doubles get muted. Should be no vocals playing here except the one harmony I want to balance at any particular time. Perfect. What we do is we go, okay, we want this first harmony. Because it's out in the right, I like to have this in mono, but for the sake of this, I'll just show you this, how I would do this. So it's playing here, and then it's my aim here is to get this level just so I can hear it in the bed of music. I like the harmonies to meld into the music as like a connecting feature between where the leads are on the top and then the harmonies sort of mesh with the music really well. I don't like harmonies to be too loud in a mix when I'm balancing first. If a client requests them louder, I will, but I like them to balance into the music. So just take a listen. So I'm happy with that level. Got this one. My taste, that's actually a bit louder than I would have liked. I'm not sure why I set the level there. Maybe I wanted to thicken out the vocals, so I brought that harmony up a bit. But typically I'd have that down a little bit, that low version. And the reason why I have those low ones a little bit softer is because once you get the lead line and the proximity effect from the lead line in, I like to use those low doubles as a filler so I don't have to over EQ the low mids of the lead line. I'd rather use the dubs to fill it out. Whereas if I've already got the dubs loud and then I've got the lead vocal trying to compete with that, it can be a bit conflicting. So this is sort of almost like a cheat EQ, just having that low dub or harmony there to boost into it. You can hear they're just slightly under those violins, just ever so slightly, but it just fills out the sound just enough that it just sort of meshes in. It's like melted into the music a little bit. And then when you add the leads and everything, it just pops. Excuse my language there. I don't like to swear. Out of respect for the artists, because I know how much love and effort they put into these tracks. Get rid of those, put them on. Okay, let's play that.
เข้าใจเลยละคิดทุกวันว่าจะบอกความในใจเข้าใจเลย
That's how I balance the harmonies. Now, I'm going to talk about the details. One thing I like to do is spice up loops every now and then. So in this intro and in another section, I'll show you how I've used tape just to give me a little bit of flair. So this is an intro loop here, which happens at the start of the track. It's already filtered a little bit, but I just wanted it to be a little bit more eccentric, so it was obvious that filtering was going on. Absolutely destroyed, and that's what I like baby audio products for. Their filtering and creative effects are just so obnoxious. It works really well when you're using them. You're not listening for subtleties, it's there. So take a listen to this intro without and with it. Nah, let's do this. It just works. You can hear those delays, huh? They're pretty spicy too. What else did I want to show you? Oh, there's the breakdown as well. Oh, this is way more trippy. Where is it? Where's my parallel on that one? Oh, I went to the parallel bus. That's right. Where's the breakdown? Where's the break? Listen to this perk. Okay, this perk is so cool. It's that bell. It's that cow belly. Listen. I wanted it to accent a little bit, but I was struggling a little bit with just an EQ without stuffing up the mix. So I put it through a parallel drum bus and then added tape. And for some reason, it brought out that bell in a really nice way, but it added this weird flangey effect, which was really cool and suited the section. So take a listen. And it was a small detail, but it made the whole thing move so beautifully. So take a listen to this before and after.
จะเธอแกล้งไม่รู้เรื่องใช่ไหม
Hey come on now
ทักมาฉันต้องกลับไม่เคยกระสิบวิอยากให้ไปหารอยนี้ไม่เกิน10 นาทีถามจริงอยากรู้ว่าที่
And that's perfectly good and respectable, but it's these little details when I turn this on that just enhances the feel in a really nice way. Now take a listen to it with tape on.
จะเธอแกล้งไม่รู้เรื่องใช่ไหม
Hey come on now
ทักมาฉันต้องกลับไม่เคยกระสิบวิอยากให้ไปหารอยนี้ไม่เกิน10 นาทีถามจริงอยากรู้ว่าที่ทำไปยังไม่ใช่ป่ะ
Say shot เมื่อก่อนเนี้ยก็ต้องบอกกันตรงๆกันละ Please open up to me
It just feels so good to have that playing alongside it and into it. It's a really fun little detail. So in the post-chorus hook, there's this really cool vocals chop, which I want to show you how I process it. And again, these are the little details that just add a bit of flair to the track. Take a listen to this.
ให้ฉันชอบทุกวัน
I wanted it to feel big, like it was in another world. Like you've got this track, this pop track, it's big and you've got the 808 coming in, but I wanted this to stand out. I didn't want it to be chops, because anybody can produce and put vocal chops in a track and mix it and make it balanced, but I really wanted these to be special. Like they were in another atmosphere, so to speak. An atmosphere literally, because I was using reverbs and delays there. So take a listen to these reverbs and delays I baked into this. This is my Ariana Grande reverb I use on vocals. It's got a big decay, 4.5 seconds, and then Echo Boy in parallel with that, with 16th dotted on the left, 8th on the right, and analog chorus. So they're really thick. All right, so take a listen to this on and off. All right, let's just move them across. We'll move you across as well. And let's play this with and without. You hear that open hi-hat? That's a really important part of that groove. Okay, and that's why that hi-hat I've got a little bit louder than I've had hi-hats elsewhere in the track, is because I want people to feel that upbeat on the turn. That's another little detail. These are all details which you need to lock into, all right? Now listen to that open hi-hat. as fuck. It is groovy, and that's what's important. So you got those decays creating a big space, and then it turns into the upbeat, and that hi-hat, which makes, again, credit to the producer, Mech or Makina. He's so good at his productions. I've worked with him quite a bit, and every production is just golden, and these details matter when trying to move a track forward. So now we've done the details, somebody asked me a really important question, which I think can wrap this up. How did I know the mix was done? Well, how I knew the mix was done is I followed sort of the process I laid out for you. I got the organization down pat. After the organization, I got the key balances, so the kick, bass, vocals, then the drum section, then put the lead vocals back in and then mixed everything into it, then muted the lead vocals and balanced the harmonies into the music, then put the lead vocals back in and then started processing everything. And I sort of followed that process because it covers all my bases as I go through one by one each passage of the mix. That is the session. I want you to leave your comments in the section below, any questions you have, because this is such a fun session. This was one I was so excited to show you. It's a big session. There's lots of stems. There's lots of tracks to manage. If you want this template, feel free to drop, there's a link in the description below. Next week, I'm going to be putting out an email newsletter with more guided information on how I mix this and rules to follow, which I follow at least consistently. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. And until next time, take care.